It must be a hard problem to have two screens.
Yeah, man, it's the most difficult thing in the world. Like, I also have a light up keyboard, so I'm an official nerd right now. It's recording.
Recording?
Yeah, it's ready.
Oh, dang.
That's in the podcast.
Oh, gosh. All of my exclamations are in the podcast. Well,
Start us off, man. You're officially the host.
Joey, here we are. It's been a long time coming, all the months that we've known each other. But here we are. Our faces are on Zoom. The internet has been hooked up.
We're officially ready for
Our mics are in front of our faces, and we are ready to make a podcast together.
Man, I can definitely feel this podcast coming to life. Radio host.
Let's do some introductions. So, tell us your name, where you're from, and Joey, I would really like to hear. Well, actually, I want to hear first your perspective of how we met.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So I will first introduce myself with just my first name. My name is Joey. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, Joey.
And I am from the Netherlands. I live in a city called Purmerend, which is not Amsterdam, sadly enough. And I am 20.
And to this day, I still don't know how to spell that. I just think Poomer and then Rand, and then I add a couple G's in there.
Good enough. It works. So how we met is a very interesting story. It's like a Cinderella type situation. You walk through the room with strangers in an improv class. You look over and you see the prince standing there. Yeah, so no, it was kind of like that. Like I was just standing there and I looked to my left and I see this guy just hanging out, just chill, hands in the pockets. Like I'm here, I'm trying to have fun, but I don't know anyone. Open for a conversation, and it just worked. We just had a good conversation and a good improv class.
That's right.
I don't remember what that class was about.
Well, the thing that I remember, hey everyone, I'm Scott. I'm from America, and I just moved to Amsterdam about 8 months ago, and you're probably going to hear more about my story as well as Joey's. But the thing that I remember from that first time we interacted, Joey, I think it was the first, but we talked about housing in Amsterdam and how hard it is for actual Dutch people to get rent in the cities, especially Amsterdam. And and that was like the Sunday workshops. Then we actually took an 8-week class together, which finished in February, I think.
Yes.
Right before Corona stuff hit.
Exactly.
But one of my favorite scenes that I've ever done with you, there's two. One, Joey and I were in this game where different people had to stand up, and depending on who stood up, you'd play this different scene. So you're up by yourself, you got to do a scene by yourself. You're up with another person, do a scene with that person. 3 people stand up, it's a 3-person scene. And we stood up, and our scenes were based off of pickle. And I was like, oh, we're in a pickle jar. We're in a pickle jar right now. And Joey, you immediately put your arm around me. And so then I was just like, frickin' pickles too close to each other in a pickle jar. And then later we had another guy that stood up. It wasn't supposed to be in that scene. And it was like the jalapeno that randomly jumped into our pickle jar. And we just wanted to get out.
Oh, yeah, man. Good.
So there was that one. And then there was the one where it was right before our last practice before our graduation show. And it's this game where it's called, I don't know, shift left, shift right. So the host or whatever is shifting us. And then when you shift, you play a different scene with a different partner. There's 4 people on stage. And Joey and I, we were lovers.
Yeah, we were gay lovers.
And you wanted to leave, and I didn't want you to leave. And it got physical.
You jumped me. I turned my back to you, and you jumped me and threw me to the floor.
I don't know what came over me. I just really didn't want you to leave.
Listen, man, I get it. I totally get it. It happens all the time. No worries.
Joey, the thing I want to ask you, in what way are you very Dutch? And in what way are you not very Dutch? I think I've maybe even asked you this before.
So I'm not very Dutch. I'm going to start backwards. I'm not very Dutch because I love English way more. Like I only speak English, I read English, I do everything in English. So I'm the least Dutch person you will ever meet. I don't like the music, I don't like certain candies that we make here. Just deport me to America. Just throw me out of this country. They don't believe me
Give
anyway.
me some Twinkies. I'll be happy.
Like, Twinkies, man, give me some Reese's Pieces, man.
Preach. That's good stuff.
How am I very Dutch? I'm cheap. Like anything that's free, give it to me. Like perfect. I'm down. Like
I
five
do like that aspect of living out here.
5 cents off. 5 cents off, man. if
Gotta buy it. It's 5 cents off. You gotta go for it.
if you buy 10 things of that 5 cents off, you have 50 cents back, man. It's something.
Always calculating.
Exactly. So now I'm curious, what is like the most Dutch thing you've done since living here? Like you felt Dutch.
Mm. Dude, that's a good question. Yeah, I feel like so much of what Amsterdam is touristy. Like people think of Amsterdam, they think of I think a lot of things: pot, prostitution, canals, boat rides,
The good stuff.
all the good stuff. So, but then I kind of quickly realized the more snooty you are towards those things, you're actually becoming more and more Dutch. The more you're like, I don't like those things. That's not my Amsterdam, basically. But I think that the most Dutch thing I've done that I felt so proud of, when you first move here, you learn really quickly where to stand and where not to stand. And it's through this beautiful little tinkling sound of a bell repeatedly getting belled at you from people's bikes. And you learn very quickly, like, oh man, I'm in the bike lane. And for any of you who are about to come visit Amsterdam, there is a pedestrian lane where you walk. There is a biker lane where you bike, and those people own the road. And then there's the car lane, and the car lane has to watch out for everybody. Nobody likes the cars, and the bikers rule the road.
But do not be mistaken. The bikers are on the pedestrian roads and on the car roads. They're everywhere.
That's true.
Don't think you're safe just walking the crossroads. Like, oh yeah, I can walk here. It's fine. They just run you over.
And they will ding at you no matter what.
Exactly.
And so I felt the most Dutch when I was biking and I was angry and I had to get where I needed to get. And I was just like, I'm going to go. No one's going to get in my way. And I dinged at my first tourist and I was like, yes, I have made it.
You're officially one of us. That's great, man. I really love that. So you're fully integrated now.
But for real, we love it here. So my wife and I, we moved here, and what I really do love is my street. So like I'm looking out right now, and we've got this little grocery store from like our friend Sing that owns it, and little like produce and fruit and vegetables that we buy there. And then we've got an Albert Heijn also on the street. Then we've got like a Max Albert Heijn on like the major street, and the Metro's right there. And Oster Park is just to our left, and the hospital's right here. I mean, so it's like everything is really localized. We can walk everywhere, can bike everywhere, and we really love that.
Yeah, perfection. It sounds perfect. You found the right spot.
Yes.
So Scott, I'm gonna ask you because I know, but the people listening don't know. Tell us, like, what are we going to talk about in our nice new podcast?
Yes. So I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while and not always knowing really what to do it on, which is why I'm really thankful for you, Joey, that you are the tech wizard. You're like the wind behind my little ideas, my wings.
I'm your official Harry Potter.
Yeah, yes. You cast the spells, make the things happen. So I came out to Amsterdam to work for a Christian organization that works with international students. And a lot of what we do is to help people understand who they are and what they believe, or to question what they believe. and to really start to figure out, like, who are you apart from your parents' beliefs? So it's not just something that they believed and you're like, oh, well, I guess I just believe it, but actually starting to think for ourselves, what do you believe? And that can be either you grew up without any religion and you're like, well, now I'd like to actually try this out, consider it. Or you grew up with a lot of religion. You're like, I don't know if I buy this anymore. This part was weird for me. And so as far as podcasts go, I really want to start to interview people to let their stories of faith or no faith, belief or unbelief, have it be heard specifically for the people on the other side. Because here I am, I work in a Christian ministry, but then I'm also in theater and in improv. And sometimes those worlds feel like completely worlds apart. Especially stereotypically, this is not always true, but maybe within the improv scene, people are less religious, maybe spiritual, but they haven't nailed it down like what they believe. And I think especially not Christian. And then within Christian circles, you don't find too many improv people. And sometimes, unfortunately, Christians are like, oh, those people, like, they're dangerous, or that, I don't know, theater people, they don't understand.
That's a very interesting thing, like saying those are dangerous. Technically I can imagine why. Like, improv people are very open to make jokes about anything. So I can imagine that they might feel offended because a religious joke is an easy joke. It's
And
not.
it is. Sometimes Christians do weird things. We are easy targets. But you're totally right. I think and theater people, they just say what they think, and they're very just like out in the open, and then I think sexually, like, just how they're viewing sexuality, the two different communities can be very different. Like, maybe Christians might say what holy sexuality is, or what God's design for sexuality is, but then maybe more on the theater side, it's like, you do you, like, live however you want, have sex with whatever you want. Maybe, I don't know what they say.
Whatever they want, right?
So anyway, the hope for this podcast is to interview people about their story for the benefit of the other side, to actually understand who this person is and why they believe what they believe. Because I think that's the piece that's missing. The Christians don't know a lot of theater people, and theater people don't know a lot of Christians. And so then it's easy when you don't know somebody to make up beliefs about the other side. Oh, they're this, or they only think this, or they're crazy because, or bigoted, or I don't know. So my hope is that we can actually kind of see the commonalities on both sides versus just the differences.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I went to one of Scott's groups, and I can tell you it's an experience on its own. Like, the first day I went there, we had this nice conversation. They trick you by saying we have free food.
Which we do. It is free.
It's free and it's delicious. His wife is an excellent cook, so kudos to that. But but you get there, you get into a group. Everyone is very open and honest. It's not all about religion, because in the beginning everyone's just talking. You're talking and having food, so it's very open and spacious. After that, you dive in hard. No, just kidding. It's a nice open conversation. Sometimes it's more religious, sometimes it's a little less religious. I just had the fortunate event of being a heavy religious topic, but I'm interesting guy. My mind automatically goes like, oh, this sounds like an RPG game. So my mind just like, oh, I love this. Show me more. Like, my mind translates it really weird.
Wait. For the non-techie people out there, what's an RPG game?
That's a role-playing game, my brother.
Wow. I'm not saying that that's me. The other people that are listening, all of our 10,000 listeners.
Exactly. 10 million downloads by next week, man.
Well, fingers crossed. Wait, explain that. That's actually, yeah. Because, yeah, Joey, you stepped into, I was actually the one talking. And, okay, so for Christian community, you'll know this. I was talking about the book of Acts, which is the story of the Christian church after Jesus. And I was talking about chapter 2, which is about the Holy Spirit coming. And that chapter doesn't mess around, and I didn't mess around. I was just like, let's talk about this. And yeah, I brought Joey and our other friend from improv, and yikes, that was a hard-hitting night.
That was a very hard-hitting night. I was not expecting that kind of topic, but this is how green I am when it comes to religion. Because I was like, yeah, if it's a heavy topic, you can invite. You might not want to invite me if it's a very heavy topic. Apparently, this was one of the more heavy topics when it came to religion. So apparently, I'm open for anything at this point.
Well, and I think Christina might have even said this, our friend, but like, Joey, if you could handle that night, you can handle.
Oh yeah, she told me later.
Any night or something. But I mean, now we're painting a weird picture. Fair warning, we did not slay anyone in the spirit. No one was dropping down, shaking on the ground. No, there's no tears. It was just me, to the best of my ability, trying to explain a very spiritual concept for Christianity of the fact that God's Spirit now dwells on earth through those of who consider themselves believers. And that's one of those, I mean, that's where Christianity really gets its power, basically. You can kind of have principles about Christianity of like, Jesus, he was cool. I like his teachings. I respect him. But when you go into the Holy Spirit, that's when it turns into faith, because it's like, I believe, even without always seeing evidence that this is true, that God's Spirit now dwells. So that's what I gave him.
And the second time was also very interesting because that was the complete opposite. It was just prayer, singing, just songs of religion. Just what you will see in a Christian camp during summer. Someone is playing the guitar. Everyone's singing the song because everyone knew it. And I was just singing along because they had a nice PowerPoint with the lyrics on there. I was just there like, ugh. And you were looking at me like, "Are you all right? Is this too much for you?" And I was,
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's going great.
Well, I think that's one of my favorite things about you is, yeah, you just jump in. There's multiple cases that second night, that Joey like truly just jumped in. So he just mentioned one. We're all singing. We're in the living room, in a flat in Amstelveen. There's probably, I don't even know, 30. No, actually, so that night there was a ton of us. I think it was closer to 40 people. Usually we have about 25, which is still kind of packed. I mean, it was packed. We were like sitting on cushions on the ground, one of which was Joey. He wasn't the cushion. He was on the ground. Anyway. And so he's singing and he just goes for it. Doesn't eat it. He's just singing. He's just singing things. But the other time, okay, man, I'm just like, Joe, you got in on all the things. That specific night, we had a group from America coming over. They were on like a short-term trip thing for their school. And there was probably about 15 or so of them. And Joey had arrived early and was like there in the house. And then all the Americans come in and they are, they've just been talking to students on campus and having these spiritual conversations. And then there's Joey. And I walk back in the room and there's like a wall of women. So for some reason, all the women sitting around Joey, he's on the ground, and they're all just like fascinated as he tells them about how, he's Dutch, but he's, he really identifies more with his English ability. I mean, all these things, and it was awesome.
They mainly wanted to know about typical Dutch cuisines, and till this day, I cannot tell you like what that actually is, which is hilarious.
Like, yeah, Dutch cuisine. We could do a whole podcast on that.
Exactly. It's such a weird thing. So I just sent him to the best market on Friday you can find. It's in a little place called The Pape. You can walk there. There's a giant market and they have the best, and you might want to write this down, stroopwafels.
Stroopwafels.
Those are amazing. Everyone loves them. There's probably people listening to this and they're like, yes, I've heard of this. I need this.
And then there's other people who are like, oh my gosh, is that all you have, stroopwafels? We're like, hey, they're amazing.
That's all we have, but you have one. You only need one to win everything.
Yeah, that's right. If it's that good, you only need one thing. So Joey, tell me a little bit about your story. When you think about faith, You kind of mentioned how you're green, I guess is the word you use, but what would you say is your story?
I would say the same thing I always tell everyone. Like, I'm a big believer that there's something out there. Like, everything, I love science, I love everything behind it, and I'm a big believer of evolution. But at the same time, everything is too fast and too big to be created out of just pure science and nothing. That's, for me, that is an impossible belief. But at the same time, I'm not comfortable giving that a name. So there's something there. There's either one god, maybe two gods, maybe a whole lot of them, who knows. But I'm a believer that there's something out there. But
Hmm.
what that is, I will not tell you because I have no clue.
And you weren't raised with any specific background or parents' beliefs or any of that, right?
No, I think the most religious contact I've had in years, like I had a guy who was a Christian in my class, but he was from so you have multiple sides. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have your side who's very open, very sweet, like we give you food, come in. And there's the other side who knocks on your door and is like, hey, we have the Bible and we want to tell you about it. And he was that group. And I
Yeah. We don't need to name names, but there are some names we could name of the different types of groups.
no,
Yeah.
I have no problem talking about religion. Like, it's very interesting. It's very fascinating. Will you convert me? I know you will try. I know you will try your hardest.
Okay. You're right. I am correct.
Yeah, I noticed. That's all right. I'm open for anything, but I will tell you, you will probably not succeed. Well, who knows? Maybe you will succeed.
Challenge.
Maybe in 50 episodes, I'm a fully religious man, guys.
Challenge accepted.
Exactly.
Well, actually, that's kind of a good segue. So, as we think about a podcast where we interview people, I mean, so it's kind of nice. So, you and I being on this podcast is great because I come from this one perspective, you come from a different perspective. So, even as we ask questions, I think we can balance each other out nicely. So, what are you hoping to gain from this podcast?
I hope to gain a lot of extra information because I just crave like information about anything. So that's why the first night at your place was so interesting, because there was so much information thrown my way, and it was there was such a big topic that was spoken of, and you can just feel that. And that made me very interested. And I'm just a guy who craves that kind of feeling. I just want to hear everyone's perspective and just battle it out. Let's see what we get.
Dude, yeah, just listening, or do you like
Oh, you know the answer.
challenging?
I jump in whenever.
That's true. You do jump in.
You've seen that.
Yes. I love that.
So
I think
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I'm curious, like, what do you want to gain from this? Because it was your idea, but what is it that you want to achieve? Like, what would be your top goal right now?
Yeah, I really like what you said. I think that's how I want to live my life. Even if I have settled on something, I believe this right now, I want to continue to be a learner and have the humility to say I might be wrong. And hopefully I meet with people that do challenge my beliefs, or say, have you considered this, or tell me more about that. Because that actually makes me a better person / believer in whatever I believe in when someone is actually testing it. And then as far as the podcast, again, I kind of mentioned, like, I have always found myself in these two different worlds, and they don't often intermingle. And so I want to be like that bridge that bridges the gap, to bring somebody who has never met a Christian and be like, why would anyone believe in that? It's so silly. And then we interview a Christian. They're like, oh, wow. Like, I get it. I get how they got there. Or that's really inspiring what they went through and how their beliefs helped them. And then for a non-Christian, I want my Christian friends to hear how somebody can be rational and critical and or even just be a person of faith, but not a person of the Christian faith. So yeah, I think that's my hope, is to bridge the gap between the two communities.
Yeah, I really like that. And I would like to add that I am very interested because I think a large group when it comes to your group is probably standing behind this. It's like a lot of religious people are like, we do not have sex before marriage. Like sexuality is a very big thing. And for a non-religious person, like I am a true believer of saying this right now is like have sex with someone you love. That's what I always believed in. Now that I'm older, I will admit that is not always the case. But at the same time, it's like I want to yell this and see how one of your friends like is like, oh, I get that or I don't get that, and see where that conversation goes. Because I feel like that's very interesting to see like how people think of that.
Shoot, now I'm thinking about another add-on. I love that. So you're saying, thinking about, because it's so true. Sexuality is kind of like some of the deepest parts of who we are. What we either do or hope to do. It says a lot about who we are. And then I think for me, I would love to challenge, or I don't know, ask people who call themselves not a person of faith to actually open their eyes to the idea that we are all actually people of faith. We put our faith in something. Some people choose to put it in God or the God of Christianity, but we put our faith in a lot of different things. And so then I'd just be curious, like, how does somebody who doesn't necessarily define that person or that thing, how do they actually know what they're putting their faith in? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I really like that. I really want to hear a lot of stories because I can tell everyone right now, like sitting with your group and hearing some of the stories, like some things are so intense and you're like, I get that if you do that. So I will not share the story because it was a very personal story, but there was one story and something happened. And that's why this person reached out to someone they didn't want to reach out to because they felt like belief was sending them that direction at that moment. And I was thinking a little while later, like, is it possible for someone who is not religious to have the same kind of epiphany out of nowhere? Like, because for her specifically, it was like, God told me I needed to go this direction. But for someone like me, like, how would that feel? How would you describe that? I want to say for me personally, I would say like maybe it's intuition, maybe it's just a gut feeling. Like, where do you describe that? So I think a lot of interesting conversations can be helped because of that.
So last but not least in this little intro discussion, we're realizing we don't have a name.
Yes.
We need a name.
We definitely need one.
Maybe by the time we release this, we'll have nailed it in. We'll put like some sort of intro thing and be like, hey, we definitely have a name. We've got a name.
Yeah, all the comments were like, you don't have a name. No, you were wrong. We have a title with a name in it.
They'll be like, no, we heard you guys discussing how you don't have a name. We're like, what? Uh-oh.
You listened that far? We're so proud of you.
You listened to the whole thing. So for all of you 10,000 subscribers out there, send in your name suggestions. We might need it.
Yes, and maybe by the next episode, we will definitely have a name.
We'll definitely have a name.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have a name.
It's going to be all right.
Well, Joey, we'll figure out our next guest and get after it.
Definitely. I'm definitely very curious for your guest suggestions because you're the official host. I'm your official tag guy, and I will be your anchor for this show.
Love that. You're the anchor. You're the wind in my sails and the anchor to my ship.
That's so sweet. That, by the way, we're ending this on my favorite improv scene with you and me together. Speaking of ships. Afterwards, I realized that I did the scene completely wrong, technically speaking. So we were doing the same game, the shift left, shift right game, on stage during our graduation.
Right.
We're doing Titanic,
Right.
and we're doing the famous King of the World scene. But I was Rose, and Rose wanted to be the king of the world. So afterwards, I realized what went wrong.
Wait. How did that happen? You were like,
I was standing in front of you, and I just stood out in the T pose and went like, "Hold me, check." And I was just standing there, and you were like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely good for you."
Yeah, I was like, this is good for one of us or something.
something like that. And we perfectly with Draw Me Like a French Girl.
And that is how we're going to end today's podcast.
Until next episode.
Till next time. See ya, everyone.